The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest room ever built by any species in the known galaxy. It stretched for miles in every direction, with seats carved from strange metals and glowing crystals rising up toward a ceiling, so high that clouds sometimes formed beneath it. 12 different species had gathered here today, each one believing themselves to be superior to the others, but all united in one simple belief. Humans were beneath them. Ambassador Linda Price had stood in this hall many times over the past 40 years. She remembered her first visit as a young diplomat, full of hope and excitement about humanity joining the galactic community. She remembered how the other species had looked at her, with disgust, with pity, with barely hidden contempt. Humans were the newest spacefaring race, having only discovered faster-than-light travel 60 years ago. To species that had ruled the stars for thousands of years, humans were nothing more than clever animals who had stumbled upon technology they did not deserve. Linda was 63 years old now. Her hair had turned silver, and lines marked her face from decades of stress and disappointment. She had watched humanity beg for trade rights that other species received automatically. She had seen human colonies denied medical supplies during plagues because the council decided humans needed to prove their worth first. She had attended the funerals of friends who died because alien technology that could have saved them was forbidden to lesser species. And through it all, she had smiled. She had nodded. She had said, "Thank you, and we understand." And humanity is grateful for any consideration she had played the part of the humble servant because that was what her government had asked her to do. But Linda Price had a secret. Every human diplomat, every human soldier, every human scientist had the same secret. They were all waiting for this exact moment. High Arbiter Zethron rose from his throne at the center of the Great Hall. He was a Kethmari, an insectoid creature with 4 arms, compound eyes, and a voice that buzzed like 1,000 angry wasps. The Kethmari had ruled the council for 600 years, and Zethron had held his position for the last 80. He was ancient, powerful, and absolutely certain of his own superiority. "The council has reached a decision," Zethron announced. His voice echoed through the hall, amplified by technology that humans were officially forbidden to possess. The species known as humanity has been evaluated and found wanting. Despite 50 years of observation, humans continue to display dangerous tendencies, aggression, rapid expansion, and an unwillingness to accept their proper place in the galactic order. Linda's aide, a young man named Derek Shaw, shifted nervously beside her. He was only 28, new to the diplomatic corps, and still believed that reason and kindness could change how aliens viewed humanity. Linda had believed that once too. Furthermore, Zethron continued, human population growth threatens the stability of regions assigned to more deserving species. Human technology, while primitive, advances at an unacceptable rate. And human culture promotes dangerous ideas of equality and individual rights that could destabilize the natural hierarchy of the galaxy. Around the Great Hall, representatives of other species nodded their approval. The aquatic Virelans bubbled with satisfaction in their water tanks. The towering Graxenal stamped their massive feet in agreement. The silicon-based crystalline made sounds, like breaking glass that passed for applause among their kind. Derek leaned close to Linda. "They can't be serious," he whispered. "We've done everything they asked. We followed every rule." Quiet," Linda said softly. "Listen." Zethron raised all 4 of his arms, commanding silence. "Therefore, by unanimous decision of the Galactic Council, we hereby declare total war upon the species known as humanity. All human colonies will be seized. All human vessels will be destroyed. And Earth itself will be occupied and its population placed under permanent supervision for the safety of the galaxy. The hall erupted in cheers. Species that had competed with each other for resources and territory for millennia were united in their joy at humanity's destruction. They had always seen humans as a problem to be solved, and now the solution had arrived. Derek's face went pale. "Ambassador, we need to contact Earth. We need to warn them. We need to, finally," Linda said that the word was quiet, almost lost in the noise of alien celebration, but Derek heard it clearly. He stared at her in confusion. "Ma'am?" Linda turned to face him, and Derek saw something in her eyes that he had never seen before in any human diplomat. It was not fear. It was not despair. It was relief, the relief of someone who had been holding a heavy weight for a very long time and was finally allowed to set it down. "Do you know why I became a diplomat, Derek?" Linda asked. She reached for the emergency beacon on her wrist console, a small device that every human official carried. "It wasn't because I believed in peace. It wasn't because I thought we could make friends with these creatures. I became a diplomat because someone needed to keep them talking while we prepared." "Prepared?" Derek repeated. "Prepared for what?" Linda pressed the beacon. Somewhere far away on Earth, in a place that officially did not exist, alarms would now be sounding. Messages would be sent. Plans that had been made decades ago would finally be put into action. "For 50 years, we have played by their rules," Linda said. "We have accepted their insults. We have suffered their restrictions. We have let them believe we were weak, because weak species are not worth watching closely. Weak species are not seen as threats. Weak species are ignored." She smiled, and it was not a diplomatic smile. It was the smile of a predator that had finally been released from its cage. They have no idea what they have just done. Derek looked around the great hall, at the celebrating aliens, at the soldiers already being dispatched to begin the invasion of human space. "Ambassador, with respect, they have 800 warships heading toward our colonies right now. We have 32 ships in our entire fleet. How can we possibly? 32 ships that they know about." Linda corrected him. She began walking toward the exit, her steps confident and unhurried. There is a great deal about humanity that they do not know, and they are about to learn. Behind her, the Galactic Council continued to celebrate their easy victory over the primitive humans. They had no way of knowing that their celebration would be very short, or that the war they had just declared would be over in ways they could never have imagined. They did not know that for 50 years. Humanity had been building, planning, and waiting. And now, the waiting was over. Linda stepped out of the great hall and into the corridor beyond, where human ships would soon arrive to bring her home. Home to Earth, home to war, home to show the galaxy what humanity really was. She was still smiling. Deep beneath the mountains of Colorado, in a facility that appeared on no map and existed in no official record, Admiral Catherine Barnes sat alone in her office at 3 in the morning. She was 58 years old, built solid and strong, like a woman who had spent her life preparing for battle. Her gray hair was cut short, her uniform was perfectly pressed, and her coffee had gone cold hours ago because she had been too focused on reports to drink it. Catherine had commanded Earth's secret defense fleet for 15 years. Before that, she had served in the public navy, the small, underfunded force that the Galactic Council allowed humanity to maintain. She had commanded one of humanity's 32 official warships, following council rules about weapon types and engine speeds and patrol routes. She had smiled at alien inspectors and thanked them for their guidance. She had played the role perfectly, but every night, after the inspectors left and the official reports were filed, Catherine had come down here, down to Prometheus Station, where the real work happened. The alarm began to sound at exactly 3:47 in the morning. Catherine did not jump or show surprise. She had been waiting for this alarm for 15 years. In some ways, She had been waiting for it her entire life. "Ma'am," her communications officer said over the intercom, "Ambassador Price has activated the Omega Protocol. Council has declared war." Catherine picked up her cold coffee and finally took a sip. "Wake the senior staff. Get General Marcus Cole on a secure line. And connect me to President Harper." "Yes, ma'am." "Ma'am, is this really happening?" Catherine allowed herself a small smile. "It's really happening. Today is the day we stop pretending." Within 30 minutes, the main command center of Prometheus Station was fully staffed. Officers moved between stations with calm efficiency, activating systems that had been tested and retested thousands of times, but never used in actual combat. Screens flickered to life showing fleet positions, weapon platforms, troop deployments, and resource stockpiles that the Galactic Council had never known existed. General Marcus Cole arrived in full uniform, his broad shoulders filling the doorway as he entered. He was 52, a soldier's soldier, with hands that had seen combat and eyes that had seen friends die. He had spent 20 years building humanity's secret army, recruiting soldiers in secret, training them in hidden bases on moons and asteroids that the Council never bothered to scan. "Admiral," he said, nodding to Catherine, "I assume you've heard the good news." "The Council has decided to commit suicide," Catherine replied. "I thought we should help them." A holographic display activated in the center of the room, showing Earth and its colonies surrounded by red dots, the approaching alien fleets. The Council had sent everything they had. 800 warships from 6 different species were converging on human space, expecting to find minimal resistance. "Let me show you what they're actually facing," Catherine said. She pressed a control, and the display changed. The red dots remained, but now they were surrounded by blue. Hundreds of blue dots. Thousands of them. 847 capital ships, Catherine announced. Each one bigger, faster, and more heavily armed than anything the Council has ever built. 12,000 support vessels. 47 million active military personnel. 216 orbital defense platforms around Earth alone, plus another 300 around our major colonies. General Cole smiled. It was not a nice smile. "And the special projects?" Catherine pressed another control. A new section of the display lit up, showing research facilities and prototype weapons that made even their advanced fleet look primitive by comparison. "The Lazarus Initiative is fully operational," she said. "We've had it ready for 10 years, just waiting for authorization. Quantum disruption weapons that can tear enemy ships apart at the atomic level. Shield technology that can absorb anything they throw at us. And the new engines." She paused, letting the weight of her next words sink in. "We can cross the galaxy in hours. They still think faster than light travel takes days or weeks." A screen on the wall flickered, and President Diane Harper appeared. She was 60 years old, a former scientist who had helped design some of the weapons now waiting to be used. Her face was calm but serious. "Admiral Barnes, General Cole," she said. "I've just finished speaking with the full cabinet. We are in agreement." "Ma'am," Catherine said, "awaiting your orders." President Harper looked at the display showing the approaching enemy fleets. Millions of aliens who thought they were coming to conquer humanity. Soldiers and sailors who had been told the humans were weak, primitive, easily defeated. They had no idea they were flying into a trap that had been 50 years in the making. "For 50 years, we have hidden our true strength," the president said. "We did this because we wanted peace. We hoped that if we showed patience and humility, the Council would eventually accept us as equals. That hope is now gone. They have chosen war, and we will give them one." She straightened in her chair, her voice taking on the tone of command that had won her 3 elections. "Admiral Barnes, you have full authorization to deploy the fleet. General Cole, activate all ground forces. And both of you." She paused, and something fierce appeared in her eyes. "Show them why humanity doesn't ask for permission." The command center erupted into controlled chaos. Officers began transmitting orders to ships that had waited in darkness for decades. Soldiers across 100 hidden bases received their mobilization codes. Weapons that had never been fired in anger powered up for the first time. Catherine watched, it all with a sense of deep satisfaction. For her entire career, she had prepared for a war she hoped would never come. Now it was here, and she was ready. "Admiral," one of her officers reported, "first contact with enemy fleet in approximately 6 hours. They're heading for Mars." "Good," Catherine said. "That's exactly where we want them. Contact Commander Laura Mitchell and tell her that the Third Fleet is cleared for engagement. And tell her one more thing." "Ma'am?" Catherine smiled again, and this time it reached her eyes. "Tell her to enjoy herself." Far away, in the darkness between Earth and Mars, 87 warships began to move. They were sleek and deadly, designed for speed and power, crewed by men and women who had trained their entire lives for this moment. And at the center of the formation, aboard the flagship that would lead humanity's first real battle, Commander Laura Mitchell received her orders and began to smile. The galaxy was about to learn what humans could do when they stopped pretending to be weak. Admiral Skrikstal of the Kethmari Imperial Fleet had lived for 160 years. He had commanded warships since before humans had discovered electricity. He had won 37 battles against species that had dared to challenge the Council's authority, and he had never lost a single engagement. His carapace was decorated with medals from a dozen campaigns, and his name was spoken with fear across 100 worlds. Today, he had been given the honor of leading the first attack against humanity. 400 warships under his command, more firepower than any species had ever assembled for a single battle. It was, his superiors had told him, far more than necessary. Humans had only 32 ships, most of them small patrol vessels, barely capable of defending a single planet. This would not be a battle. It would be an execution. Skrikstal's fleet emerged from hyperspace near Mars. The red planet humans had begun to colonize a century ago. His tactical displays showed exactly what he expected. A few human defense satellites, some civilian transports trying to flee, and absolutely nothing that could threaten his force. The humans were already panicking, sending desperate distress signals that would never be answered in time. "Admiral," his sensor officer reported, "I am detecting something strange." "Explain," Skrikstal commanded. "There appears to be a group of ships approximately 50,000 kilometers from our position. They were not there a moment ago." Skrikstal's compound eyes focused on his display. The officer was correct. Where there had been empty space, there were now ships. Many ships. And they were not running away. How many vessels? He demanded. The sensor officer was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice trembled. 87 capital ships, Admiral. And their energy signatures. I have never seen readings like these. Their reactors alone are producing more power than our entire fleet combined. Before Skrikstal could respond, his communications console activated. A human face appeared on his screen, a young female with dark hair and calm eyes. She wore a military uniform he did not recognize, with insignia that had never been shown to the Council. "Admiral Skrikstal," the human said. Her voice was pleasant, almost friendly. "My name is Commander Laura Mitchell of the United Earth Navy. I command the Third Fleet." "There is no Third Fleet," Skrikstal replied automatically. "Humans are permitted only a single defensive force." Commander Mitchell smiled. It was not a nervous smile or a desperate smile. It was the smile of someone who knew something he did not. "There's a lot about humanity that you don't know, Admiral. But you're about to learn." She leaned forward slightly. I want you to send a message to your council. Tell them that Ambassador Linda Price sends her regards. Tell them that the war they declared is going to be very short. And tell them—" She paused, and her smile widened. "Tell them we've been waiting for this for 50 years. The communication ended. Scrixtel stared at the blank screen for a moment, then turned to his tactical officer. "All ships, attack formation. Target the largest human vessel and prepare to—" He never finished the sentence. The human ships moved faster than anything Scrixtel had ever seen. One moment they were 50,000 kilometers away. The next, they were everywhere, weaving between his vessels like predators circling confused prey. They fired weapons that his sensors could not identify, beams of energy that passed through his shields as if they did not exist. His flagship shook as something struck the hull. Alarms screamed. Damage reports flooded in from every section. Around him, his fleet was coming apart. "Admiral," his tactical officer shouted, "we've lost 40 ships. 50. The humans are. They're not even slowing down." On the main display, Scrixtel watched his proud fleet being torn to pieces. Human ships danced around his vessels, striking with impossible precision, disappearing before his gunners could target them. Every time one of his ships managed to fire, the humans were already somewhere else, as if they knew exactly what he was going to do before he did it. 100 ships gone. 150. 200. A new communication request appeared on his console. Scrixtel accepted it without thinking. Commander Mitchell's face appeared again, and she did not look tired or stressed or worried. She looked exactly as calm as she had before. "Admiral, you've lost half your fleet in 3 minutes," she said. "I could destroy the rest of you in another 3. But I'm going to give you a choice that your council never gave us." Scrixtel's throat was dry. His hands trembled. "What choice?" "Surrender now, and your surviving ships and crews will be taken as prisoners of war. You will be treated humanely, something your species has never offered us. You will eventually be returned to your people when this war is over." She paused. "Or you can keep fighting, and I will show you what happens when humans stop being merciful." Around Scrixtel, his bridge crew stared at him with terrified compound eyes. They had expected to slaughter primitives. Instead, they had encountered something far beyond their understanding. "How?" Scrixtel managed to ask. "How did you? We monitored you for 50 years. We inspected your ships. We controlled your technology. How did you build this without us knowing?" Commander Mitchell's smile faded, replaced by something harder and colder. "You controlled what we showed you. You inspected what we let you see. You thought you were watching us, Admiral, but we were studying you, learning your weaknesses, building our strength in places you never thought to look." She leaned back in her chair. "The Council called us primitive. They called us dangerous. They were half right. The battle had lasted 11 minutes. 312 Kethmari vessels had been destroyed. 88 had been captured, their crews surrendering rather than face the weapons that had torn their fleet apart. Human losses stood at 4 ships damaged, 0 destroyed. As Scrixtel was escorted from his ruined bridge by human marines who treated him with surprising courtesy. He thought about the message he would have to send to the Council. He thought about explaining how the weak, primitive humans had destroyed the greatest fleet ever assembled in less time than it took to eat a meal. And he thought about Commander Mitchell's words. "We've been waiting for this for 50 years. For the first time in 160 years. Admiral Scrixtel felt something he had never experienced before. He felt afraid. Across the galaxy. As news of the battle spread, other alien commanders began to feel the same thing. The humans were not what they had been told. The humans were not primitive or weak or easy prey. The humans had been hiding, waiting, preparing, and now they were awake. 1 month had passed since the Galactic Council declared war on humanity. 1 month since Admiral Scrixtel's fleet had been destroyed in 11 minutes. 1 month since the galaxy discovered that humans were not what they appeared to be. In that month, everything had changed. The Council had sent fleet after fleet against human space. The Varellans attacked the colony on Europa with 200 ships. They retreated with 19. The Graxinal ground forces landed on Mars, expecting to face frightened civilians. They found themselves surrounded by human soldiers who had been training for decades in hidden underground bases. The Crystalline attempted to destroy Earth's communication satellites. They discovered that those satellites were actually weapons platforms in disguise. Every battle ended the same way. Every attack failed. Every species that had voted to destroy humanity learned the same terrible lesson. They had been deceived. Now, Ambassador Linda Price stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council once again. But this time, the situation was very different. Human Marines lined the walls of the chamber, their advanced armor gleaming under the alien lights. Human warships orbited the Council's homeworld, so many of them that they blocked out the stars. Human soldiers had occupied the Council's military headquarters, their research facilities, their communication centers. The war was over. Humanity had won. Linda looked around the Great Hall at the faces of the species who had wanted to destroy her people. The Kethmari delegates sat in silence, their compound eyes fixed on the floor. The Varellans floated motionlessly in their water tanks, too shocked to even bubble. The Graxinal, who had towered over every other species with such pride, now hunched in their seats like frightened children. And at the center of it all, stripped of his authority and his medals and his throne, sat High Arbiter Zethron. The ancient Kethmari, who had pronounced humanity's death sentence, now waited to hear his own fate. "You declared war on us," Linda said, her voice carrying across the silent hall. "You thought we were weak because we chose peace. You thought we were stupid because we accepted your restrictions. You thought we were primitive because we did not fight back when you insulted us and denied us and treated us like animals." She paused, letting her words sink in. "You were wrong about all of it." She began to walk slowly across the floor, past the rows of defeated alien delegates, toward the raised platform where Zethron sat. For 50 years, humanity played a role. We pretended to be less than we were. We hid our technology, our ships, our soldiers. We let you believe you were watching us when we were actually watching you. Linda stopped in front of Zethron and looked up at him. "We learned your languages, your cultures, your military tactics. We studied your weapons so we could build better ones. We analyzed your shields so we could break through them. We memorized your battle strategies so we could predict every move you would make." Admiral Catherine Barnes stepped forward from where she had been standing with the other human leaders. "Your most advanced warship has a reactor that produces 3 million units of power. Our average patrol craft produces 15 million. Your fastest engines take 6 hours to cross a solar system. Ours take 6 minutes. Your weapons can penetrate armor up to 1 meter thick. Ours don't care about armor at all. They simply rearrange matter at the atomic level." General Marcus Cole joined her. "Your combined military forces number approximately 200 million soldiers across all species. We have 47 million active troops, with another 100 million in reserve. But more importantly, our soldiers have been training specifically to fight your armies for decades. We know every tactic you use. We know every weakness in your formations. We've been preparing for this war since before most of your current officers were born." President Diane Harper walked to the center of the floor, and every eye in the chamber turned to her. She looked tired but determined, like someone who had carried a heavy burden and was finally setting it down. "The question now," she said, "is what happens next. We could do to you what you intended to do to us. We could burn your worlds, enslave your populations, erase your cultures from history. We have the power to do this. After what you have done to us over the past 50 years, the blockades, the restrictions, the humiliations, the death sentences, many humans would say we have the right. She paused, and the silence in the hall was absolute. But that is not who we are, President Harper continued. We did not build our strength so we could become conquerors. We built it so we could defend ourselves. We hid our true capabilities not because we wanted to trick you, but because we wanted to give peace a chance. We hoped that someday you would accept us as equals without us having to prove our worth through violence. She turned to face the assembled delegates directly. That hope is gone now. You made your choice when you declared war. But we are going to give you a choice, one you never gave us. Linda Price pulled out a document and held it up for all to see. This is a charter for a new galactic union. Under this charter, all species will be treated as equals. There will be no hierarchy based on how long a species has traveled to stars. There will be no restrictions on technology or expansion for any member species. Disputes will be settled through negotiation and law, not through threats and intimidation. You can sign this charter, President Harper said, and become part of a new galactic community built on respect and cooperation. Your worlds will not be harmed. Your people will not be punished for the crimes of their leaders. You will have to make changes, accept human oversight for a time, dismantle some of your more dangerous weapons, allow freedom to species you have oppressed, but you will survive. You will be treated fairly. She let those words hang in the air for a moment. Or you can refuse. And if you refuse, we will leave. We will take our ships and our soldiers and return to our own space. But we will remember. And the next time any of you threaten humanity or our allies, we will not be merciful. We will not offer terms. We will simply end you. Commander Laura Mitchell, standing among the human leaders, watched the alien delegates carefully. She saw fear in their eyes, but also something else, something like hope. For thousands of years, these species had lived under the Council's rigid hierarchy, constantly fighting for position, constantly afraid of being pushed down. The strong had crushed the weak, and the weak had waited for their chance to become strong and crush others in turn. Humanity was offering something different, something none of them had ever experienced. High Arbiter Zethron rose slowly from his seat. He was old, and he suddenly looked every one of his hundreds of years. How do we know you will keep your word? He asked. How do we know you will not simply enslave us the moment we disarm? President Harper looked at him steadily. Because we could have destroyed you already, and we chose not to. Because we spent 50 years preparing for war, and hoping we would never have to fight it. Because humanity believes that strength should be used to protect, not to dominate. She stepped closer to Zethron. We are giving you a chance to be better than you were. To build a galaxy where species cooperate instead of compete. Where different is not the same as dangerous. Where the strong help the weak instead of crushing them. She extended her hand. Take it or don't. The choice is yours. Zethron looked at her hand for a long moment. Then, slowly, he reached out and took it. One by one, the other delegates rose and did the same. 6 months had passed since the end of the war. 6 months since the Galactic Council had ceased to exist and the Galactic Union had taken its place. 6 months since humanity had proven that they were not the primitive species everyone had believed them to be. Linda Price sat in her new office on the space station that served as the Union's headquarters. The station orbited a neutral world, chosen because it belonged to no species and favored no one. Through her window, she could see ships from a dozen different civilizations coming and going. Kethmari traders, Varellan science vessels, human cargo freighters, and many others, all sharing the same space without conflict. She was 64 years old now, and she was tired. 40 years of pretending to be weak, followed by 6 months of building something new from the ashes of the old order. It had taken everything she had. But looking out at those ships, seeing species that had once wanted to destroy each other, now working side by side, she knew it had been worth it. Her door opened, and Derek Shaw entered, carrying a tablet. He had grown a great deal in the past 6 months. The naive young aide who had trembled when war was declared was gone, replaced by a confident man who had helped negotiate the Union Charter and organize the reconstruction of damaged worlds. Secretary General, Derek said, using her new title with a hint of a smile. The Varellans have officially ratified the Charter. That makes all 12 original Council species now full members of the Union. Good, Linda replied. What about the new applicants? Derek scrolled through his tablet. We've received membership requests from 15 additional species that were previously considered too weak or too primitive to join the Council. The Evaluation Committee has approved all of them for provisional membership. Linda nodded with satisfaction. Under the old Council, those species would have been denied entry for centuries, forced to prove their worth through submission and service. Under the new Union, any spacefaring species could join as equals, with full voting rights and full protection under galactic law. And the Lazarus Initiative colonies? She asked. 17 new human settlements have been established in regions that used to be restricted to us. No resistance from local species. In fact, 3 of them have requested trade agreements. The crystalline want to exchange mining technology for medical supplies. The Graxanol are asking for agricultural assistance in exchange for sharing their construction techniques. Derek looked up from his tablet. We're actually making friends, ma'am. Real friends, not just allies who tolerate us. Linda turned back to her window. Making friends. Such a simple concept, yet it had taken humanity 50 years of preparation and a war to earn the right to do it. A concept. Knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Commander Laura Mitchell entered, still wearing her naval uniform but now with the insignia of Fleet Admiral. She had been promoted 3 times in 6 months, and she had earned every rank. Her skill at Mars had proven to be no accident. She had led the human fleet to victory after victory, always using the minimum force necessary, always offering surrender terms before attacking. Secretary General, Laura said, nodding respectfully. The last of the former council leadership has been processed. Most have completed their rehabilitation sentences and returned to their homeworlds. Former High Arbiter Zethron has actually requested permission to serve as an advisor to the Union. He says he wants to help build what he spent his life trying to prevent. Linda raised an eyebrow. And what do you think of that request? Laura considered the question carefully. I think people can change. I think species can change. If Zethron honestly wants to help, we should let him try. If he doesn't, she shrugged. We'll know soon enough. Approve his request, Linda decided. Give him a junior position on the Cultural Exchange Committee. Let him see what the galaxy looks like when species cooperate instead of compete. Maybe he'll learn something. Laura nodded and made a note on her own tablet. Then she hesitated, as if she wanted to say something more. What is it? Linda asked. Permission to speak freely, ma'am. Always. Laura looked out the window at the stars beyond. When I was growing up on Titan, I hated the Council. I hated what they did to us, how they restricted our food supplies and medical technology. I watched people die because aliens we had never met decided we didn't deserve to live. She paused, and Linda could see old pain in her eyes. I joined the Navy because I wanted to fight back. I trained my whole life for the war we just won. And when it finally came, it wasn't what I expected. What do you mean? I expected to feel satisfied. I expected to feel victorious. And I did, at first. But now, Lavra turned to face Linda. Now I just feel tired. And I keep thinking about all those aliens we killed. Most of them were just soldiers following orders, just like me. They believed what their leaders told them. They thought they were doing the right thing. Linda understood. She had felt the same way when she was younger, when the weight of what humanity was preparing to do had kept her awake at night. That's why we offered peace instead of revenge, she said. That's why we're building the Union instead of an empire. We could have been conquerors. We could have made them pay for every insult, every restriction, every death. But that would have made us exactly what they accused us of being. She stood and walked to stand beside Lavra at the window. The hardest thing about strength is knowing when not to use it, Linda continued. Anyone can destroy. It takes real power to build. The Council never understood that. They thought power meant dominance, control, the ability to crush anyone who challenged them. We showed them a different kind of power, the power to protect, to forgive, to create something better than what came before. Lavra was quiet for a moment, then nodded slowly. I think I understand. It's going to take time. It will take time for everyone, Linda agreed. For us, for them, for the whole galaxy. We're building something that has never existed before, a community of species based on respect instead of fear. There will be problems. There will be setbacks. Some species will try to return to the old ways, and we'll have to stop them. But we'll do it as partners, not as masters. Derek cleared his throat politely. Ma'am, the Kethmari ambassador is requesting a meeting to discuss increased trade relations. And the Graxinal delegation wants to talk about joint military exercises. Linda smiled. Joint military exercises. A year ago, those words would have meant preparation for invasion. Now they meant cooperation, shared training, building trust between species that have been enemies for centuries. Tell them both I'll meet with them this afternoon, she said. And Derek? Schedule some time for me to visit the new human colonies next month. I want to see what we've built. As Derek and Lavra left to carry out their duties, Linda remained at the window. Outside, a human warship passed by the station, its sleek hull catching the light of distant stars. Behind it came a Varellan science vessel, then a Kethmari cargo ship, then a dozen others from species across the galaxy. They were all traveling together now, all part of the same community, all looking toward the same future. Linda thought about the day the Council had declared war, about the moment she had said, finally, and triggered the protocol that would change everything. She had spent 40 years waiting for that moment, preparing for it, dreading it. And now it was over, and something new had begun. Humanity had proven they were not weak. They had proven they were not primitive. And most importantly, they had proven that strength did not have to mean cruelty. The galaxy would never be the same. And for the first time in her 64 years of life, Linda Price felt at peace. She turned from the window and got back to work. There was a new galaxy to build. After all, and humanity was just getting started.